Close your eyes for just a second. I want you to picture um, a really crisp morning. You know, the kind of air where you can just see your breath a little bit.
Oh yeah, perfect walking weather.
Exactly. And stepping outside as a Samoyed. And in this light, the dog just looks incredible. The coat is thick. The posture is super alert. There's that famous Samoyed smile. And it's just moving forward with this powerful, purposeful rhythm. Not frantic at all, just entirely capable.
It's a very specific image, right? I mean, that is a working breed completely in its element.
It is. But hold that thought, because now I want you to picture that exact same dog on a hot afternoon, maybe a few months later.
Oh boy, right?
It's moving sluggishly, it's panting really hard, desperately looking for shade, and that magnificent coat suddenly looks like this heavy, suffocating blanket. It's become a genuine liability.
Yeah, that is a completely different, much more dangerous scenario.
And we actually have one more. Picture a third version. A totally bored Samoyed sitting at a window, barking at absolutely nothing, or, maybe tearing up the backyard, digging massive trenches and pulling its owner down the street on a leash. And under all that white fluff, it's gained a few pounds that nobody has really noticed.
What's really fascinating here is that those aren't three different breeds. They aren't even three different dogs. Based on the documentation we're analyzing today, those are three completely real, completely valid pictures of the exact same dog.
The exact same dog.
Yeah. The only difference is the environment, the weather, and the daily routine.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we are unpacking an incredibly detailed transcript from a specialized canine care series, and it focuses entirely on the variables of Samoyed exercise and weight management.
And it is so comprehensive.
It really is. Our mission today is to figure out how you, the owner, can keep your dog in that first picture, alert, capable, and thriving. Because we're moving way beyond the idea of, quote unquote, just walking the dog. We're looking at a complex system of movement, climate, and mind.
Right. And to understand that system, we really have to start with the foundational daily routine. Because there is a huge misconception out there that usually gets called the myth of the weekend warrior.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because when you hear working breed, or like sled dog, the immediate assumption is massive, unending endurance. So if someone has a really busy week and just lets the dog out for quick potty breaks in the yard,
Which is pretty common, honestly.
right, they might think they can make up for it with this gigantic hike on Saturday.
Which is incredibly destructive. I mean, this breed thrives on rhythm, not on random chaos. A lot of well-meaning owners fall into a trap where the dog does almost nothing all week, and then on Saturday, they force the dog on an exhausting 5-mile hike. Yeah, that single huge burst of activity, followed by days of being completely sedentary, it actively breaks down the dog's physical structure.
Wait, I need to jump in here. If they were bred to pull sleds across frozen tundra for miles on end, why would a 5-mile hike break them down? Should that be, easy for them?
You would think so, right? But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to how stamina is actually built mechanically in the body. Yes, genetically, they have the potential for incredible endurance, but you cannot assume athletic readiness on day one just because of their DNA.
So they don't just wake up as athletes.
Exactly. A dog sitting inside all week loses cardiovascular fitness. Their tendons and ligaments lose elasticity. A desk worker dog basically doesn't have the physical infrastructure to suddenly become a sled dog on the weekend.
Right.
If you push them like that, you are causing micro tears in the muscle and placing extreme stress on unconditioned joints.
It's kind of like, imagine someone deciding to run a half marathon on a Saturday after sitting at a desk for 40 hours during the week with zero training.
That is a terrible idea.
Right. That is a guaranteed recipe for a pulled hamstring or a blown out knee. You have to condition the body gradually.
Precisely. Stamina, muscle tone, and cardiovascular health, they have to be conditioned over time. And part of that conditioning involves active rest.
Active rest.
Yeah, rest isn't just a gap where nothing happens. It's a physiological requirement where muscle tissue actually repairs and strengthens itself.
So you build the rhythm slowly. And obviously, if you're planning major changes to their routine, you get a vet to check their baseline health first. But as you build that stamina, you immediately slam into the biggest limiting factor for this specific breed, the invisible danger that dictates literally everything they do.
Heat.
Yes.
Because of their northern heritage and that incredible thick double coat, heat is a constant liability. It changes the entire mathematical equation of exercise.
The documentation makes this incredibly clear too. Weather is not an afterthought for a Samoyed. It's not something you just check once you've already clipped the leash on.
Yeah.
The weather has to dictate the plan.
Absolutely. Warm weather, high humidity, direct sun, hot pavement, these elements compound to create a highly dangerous physiological state. You have to understand how dogs cool themselves.
Because they don't sweat, right?
Right, they don't sweat through their skin like we do. They primarily cool down through panting, which is evaporative cooling, and a little bit through their paw pads. But when it's highly humid, that evaporative cooling fails. The moisture in their breath has nowhere to go.
Oh, that makes sense.
And they are wearing a dense undercoat designed to trap body heat in sub-zero temperatures.
So you have to be incredibly proactive, walking during the coolest parts of the day, early morning or late at night, aggressively utilizing shade, offering generous amounts of water, and sometimes you just have to abandon the walk entirely and swap to indoor activities when the temperature rises.
You also have to watch for the physiological red flags. And we aren't just talking about a dog looking slightly tired here.
What are you looking for?
If your dog is suddenly drooling heavily, noticeably slowing down, aggressively pulling towards shade, or displaying weakness or confusion, those are not signs to push through. Those are urgent medical signs of impending heat stroke.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
We are talking about highly intelligent, capable dogs. If they're getting dangerously hot, why on earth wouldn't they just stop? Does their working drive literally override their own survival instinct?
In short, yes. It often does.
Oh.
What's fascinating here is the psychology of selective breeding. For generations, working dogs were bred specifically to push through physical discomfort to get a job done. That high drive and enthusiasm creates a dopamine loop in the brain. They feel good when they are working or running.
So they're getting a chemical reward.
Exactly, and because of that, many of them completely lack the ability to self-regulate. They will keep running right past the point of dangerous overheating because the chemical reward in their brain is shouting louder than the physical distress of their body.
That is such a vital reframing. You can't just trust that they're fine because they still look eager to chase a ball.
Yeah.
The dog's internal braking system is essentially broken by their own enthusiasm. So you have to be the brakes.
You have to be the brakes, yes.
On the flip side, cold weather is where they come alive. But cold tolerance doesn't mean invincibility. You still have to watch out for ice slicing paw pads, slippery surfaces causing joint injuries, and low visibility on dark winter walks.
Which brings up a compounding physiological factor. Heat intolerance and joint stress become exponentially more dangerous if the dog is dealing with something else beneath that coat.
Excess weight.
Exactly.
Ah, the fluff deception.
I love that phrase. It's a perfect way to describe it. That massive double coat acts as an incredible optical illusion. It can make a Samoyed look robust, powerful, and fit, even when it is actively hiding layers of excess fat or, conversely, severe muscle atrophy.
It's kind of like, imagine someone wearing a massive Everest level down parka. You literally have no idea if they are an Olympic weightlifter underneath that coat, or if they haven't exercised in a decade. The fluff totally hides the actual body condition.
Exactly. And because of that, visual weight checks are practically useless. You can't just look at a Samoyed and know if it's overweight. You must physically put your hands on the dog.
So how do you actually do that? What am I feeling for?
Well, you have to get your fingers past the guard hairs and into the dense undercoat. When you run your hands along their sides, you should be able to feel the ribs easily with very light pressure.
Okay, light pressure.
Think about feeling the bones on the back of your hand when it's flat. If it feels soft and padded and you have to press hard, like feeling the palm of your hand, there is a layer of fat. You also need to feel for the definition of the waist tucked up behind the ribs and assess the actual muscle tone along the spine and the back legs.
Because the physical consequences of carrying extra weight are severe. They suffer from reduced stamina, significantly worse heat tolerance, and massive mechanical stress on their joints. Fat acts as an insulator, so an overweight dog in a double coat is going to overheat dramatically faster.
Yes, it's a dangerous cycle.
Well, hold on, this brings up a massive contradiction for me. If I realize my dog is overweight, my instinct is to run them more to burn the fat. But you're telling me that's the exact opposite of what I should do.
It is the exact opposite. If you force an overweight, under-conditioned dog to suddenly run 3 miles, you aren't just burning fat. You are subjecting their joints to crushing impact forces and severely straining their cardiovascular system.
Right.
Weight loss in a working breed requires a highly managed, very gradual approach.
So no crash diets and no sudden hard exercise.
Right. It starts with the input. Exact food portions, calculating every single training treat and table scrap, and consulting a veterinarian. Only then do you use low impact, slow activity during the coolest times of the day to safely build the cardiovascular base back up without destroying their joints.
Which brings us right into the mechanics of that low-impact activity.
Okay.
Because the foundation of conditioning is the daily walk. But with this breed, we have to address the sled dog in the room, the instinct to pull.
Oh, yes. It is arguably one of the most common friction points for owners. They are immensely strong, and they have a deeply ingrained forward driving instinct.
And they pull for so many reasons, right?
Yeah.
Pent-up energy, sheer excitement, or just a learned habit that nobody bothered to correct when they were a cute 10-pound puppy.
Exactly. And it is so much easier to prevent this behavior early than to try and rewire the brain of a fully grown 60-pound powerhouse.
I can imagine.
Leash training is fundamentally non-negotiable. It's not just about manners, it's about biomechanics. When a dog is constantly pulling, they are putting immense repetitive strain on their own neck and shoulders and risking significant injury to the owner's back and shoulders too. You have to train them to focus on you, rewarding calm movement and walking in sync with your pace.
So what does this all mean for the dog's natural instincts?
Hmm.
If they were literally bred for centuries to pull heavy sleds across the ice, aren't we fighting nature by making them walk in a perfect polite heel on a suburban sidewalk? Like, how do we balance their genetic drive with basic public safety?
That is the core tension of owning a working breed in a modern environment, but you balance it through context. You must strictly separate everyday walking manners from structured pulling sports.
Oh, interesting.
A Samoyed can absolutely learn to pull with purpose. You can put them in a specific pulling harness and teach them sports like canicross or ski-joring. That satisfies the genetic drive.
So it's all about context cues. The dog learns, like, when I wear this heavy pulling harness, my job is to lean in and pull. But when I wear my everyday collar, I walk politely.
Exactly. But figuring out that context switching requires mental energy, which brings up a critical physiological point. Physical exercise alone is almost never enough to tire out a Samoyed.
Right. You can run a working dog for hours, and you might just end up creating a really fit, athletic dog that still has an anxious, racing mind.
Yes.
A mentally satisfied dog settles much faster than a physically exhausted one.
Because mental enrichment, things like scent work or solving food puzzles, actually burns glucose in the brain. It taxes their nervous system in a healthy way. When a dog uses its nose to find a hidden scent or practices intense impulse control games, it requires deep concentration. That cognitive fatigue is what actually allows them to relax.
And if we fail to balance that physical and mental stimulation, it leads straight back to our third picture from the beginning, the bored dog ripping up the yard.
Which usually gets labeled as the bad dog misconception.
It is so easy when you're frustrated to just label a dog as stubborn or spiteful. But what we're really saying is that if a Samoyed is barking constantly at the window or chewing the drywall, it might not be misbehavior at all.
More often than not, it isn't. Those frustration behaviors usually mean the dog's baseline needs aren't being met. They are underdirected, not disobedient.
But it goes even deeper than just being bored, right? Because those exact same behaviors can stem from anxiety, fear, loneliness, or critically physical pain.
That's a huge one.
Dogs are stoic. They don't complain when their back hurts. They just chew up the rug to self-soothe because chewing releases endorphins.
Exactly. And this raises an important question about how we train them, too, because a lot of these behaviors are also the result of accidental reinforcement.
How so?
Well, the dog barks out of frustration, the owner yells at the dog to stop, and the dog thinks, great, we are all making noise together. I got your attention.
Oh, man. So the owner literally just rewarded the behavior they were trying to stop.
Exactly. This is why you must investigate the root cause rather than just punishing the symptom. If there is a sudden change in a dog's behavior, you have to look at their entire physiological state. How are they sleeping? Are they too hot in the house? Are their cortisol levels spiked from stress? Has their daily rhythm been disrupted?
It requires real empathy. You have to ask, like, what is the dog trying to tell me? And interpreting that message changes dramatically based on their age and where they live, the architecture of their life.
Yeah, age and environment dictate everything. Let's look at puppies first, because the physiology of a puppy is totally different. Yes, they need movement and play, but you absolutely cannot take a puppy on a long, adult-style walk or let them do repetitive running on hard surfaces.
It's all about the growth plates.
Yeah.
Right. Explain what's actually happening in a puppy's legs.
Right. So growth plates are soft areas of developing cartilage at the ends of a puppy's long bones. They don't fully harden into solid bone until the dog is much older. If you subject a puppy to high-impact activity like jogging on concrete, leaping off tall furniture, or slipping constantly on hardwood floors, you can actually crush or fracture that soft
Oh,
cartilage.
that sounds awful.
It is. That permanently alters how the bone grows, leading to a lifetime of joint deformities and chronic pain. You are building the physical foundation for a 12 to 14-year working life. You don't want to ruin their skeletal structure in the first 6 months.
Absolutely not. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have senior dogs. They still need movement to keep their joints lubricated, but it has to be adapted.
Ah.
Shorter walks, softer surfaces like grass or dirt trails, and utilizing ramps to get into the car instead of jumping.
Right. And you have to be vigilant against a really common pitfall, assuming a dog is quote unquote just getting old.
Right.
If a senior dog slows down abruptly or stops wanting to walk, it isn't just aging, it is very likely a medical issue hiding behind their stoic temperament. It could be severe osteoarthritis, dental pain, hidden heart changes, or muscle atrophy. Those require medical intervention, not just a shrug.
So we know we have to strictly manage their environment based on their age. But that becomes infinitely harder if you don't actually control the environment right outside your door, like if you live in a high-rise apartment.
That's a very common question. Can a Samoyed live in an apartment? Yes. It is completely possible, but the owner has to do the work that the walls cannot do.
It's kind of like, imagine owning a high-end manual transmission sports car, but you don't have a garage to park it in. You can totally do it, and the car can run beautifully, but you have to be incredibly intentional about how, when, and where you drive it every single day because you don't have that safety net.
That is a brilliant analogy.
A fenced yard does a massive amount of passive work for an owner. You open the door, the dog goes to the bathroom, sniffs around, and comes back. In an apartment, you are entirely responsible for the physical labor of every single potty break, every walk, and managing the dog's incredibly vocal nature so you don't get evicted by angry neighbors.
And apartment living introduces unique physical hazards. Taking a puppy or a senior dog up and down flights of stairs multiple times a day is disastrous for their joints. Elevators mean close quarters encounters with other dogs, which requires intense behavioral management. And the pavement directly outside an apartment lobby can be dangerously hot in the summer, burning their paw pads before you even make it to a park.
The code strikes again here, too, because that massive fluff doesn't just hide weight, it hides danger. You have to run your hands over their paws, pads, and skin regularly because that dense fur easily conceals burrs, ticks, small wounds, or hot spots that can get infected fast.
Exactly.
And if you notice limping, you don't wait and see. You go to the vet, and you never, ever give human pain medication without a vet's direct order.
So if we look at this entire system managing the hazards, the weather, the physical load, and the mental enrichment, the ultimate question for an owner is, how do you know if your meticulously planned routine is actually working?
Right. Like, what is the metric for success?
You measure success by observing the recovery, the art of the settle. Genuine, deep rest after activity is absolutely mandatory.
And this requires distinguishing between a healthy workout and a state of overarousal.
What's fascinating here is the chemical state of the dog. A dog that comes back from a walk, pacing, panting endlessly, spinning, and entirely unable to settle down, is not necessarily a dog that needs more exercise.
Really?
Yeah, their nervous system might be flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. They are wildly overstimulated.
We've all seen a human toddler who has been at an amusement park for 12 hours, right?
Oh, definitely.
They are completely physically exhausted. Their little legs can barely hold them up. But instead of just going to sleep, they are vibrating with chaotic energy, screaming and throwing a massive tantrum. Their brain is just overloaded. The dog needs a wind-down routine, not another mile of walking to, quote-unquote, tire them out.
Exactly. More exercise is not always the answer. Sometimes the answer is actively teaching the dog how to turn off. And because so much of a Samoyed's health is hidden under the coat or behind their stoic working drive, keeping records is invaluable. Tracking weight, body condition scores, panting recovery time, how they handle different humidity levels, pulling habits, even digging patterns.
There are tools out there for this, right?
Yeah.
The Vital Pet app gets mentioned specifically in our sources as being genuinely useful for keeping all these trend notes in one centralized place. That way you can actually see the long-term patterns over months instead of just guessing day by day.
Yeah, records let you see if the dog is truly thriving or if they are just surviving the routine.
So, to bring it all back to you, the listener, Managing a Samoyed's physical and mental health is an incredible balancing act. It's about harmonizing their movement, strictly managing their heat exposure, feeling for hidden weight, and providing intense mental engagement. It's about building a daily rhythm that respects their physiological working heritage while keeping their mind calm in a modern environment. You're trying to keep the dog alert and capable rather than frustrated, bored, or dangerously exhausted.
And as a quick reminder, this deep dive is based on our analysis of specialized care resources and is for educational purposes only. Any concerns about your animal's health, joint development, weight, or sudden behavioral changes must always be directed to a qualified veterinarian.
We just spent this entire deep dive analyzing how a dog's environment, their mental enrichment, their sleep quality, and even their heat exposure absolutely dictate their behavior and their mood. It really makes you wonder, when we humans feel frustrated, burnt out, or act quote-unquote stubborn with the people around us, how much of that is actually a character flaw? And how much is just because we're completely ignoring our own need for the right environment, mental enrichment, and genuine rest? Something to think about.